Welcome to Property Talk from Louise's Lounge. My name is Louise Heatley and I'm Managing Director of Exclusive Links Real Estate. And with over 17 years in the Dubai real estate market, I know a few things and I know a few people. And through our podcast series, it's an opportunity for us to give some insights into the Dubai real estate market, discuss some interesting topics, have some guest attendees, and it's also an opportunity for you to meet some of our team. On today's episode, we welcome Ehab Farid, CEO of GTA Inspectors. Ehab's vast experience spans over 3 decades with Fortune 500 companies in North America, New Zealand, Australia, and the MENA region. GTA Inspectors is a RERA-certified snagging company and the proud members of the Association of Project Engineers, Ontario, Canada, and members of the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors, the most respected inspection association in the world. So Ehab, thank you for joining us today. It's great to have you here on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And being on our couch today. And GTA Inspectors, I've just done your introduction and we talked about you being a RERA certified snagging company. But talk us through the basics. What actually is a property inspection?
Okay, very good question. So property inspection is, in a very simple term, it's a service that it's done by professional companies to identify the condition of a property. This property could be residential, commercial, you name it, at a certain given time. What sometimes people are confused with, it's not a guarantee of future performance. It's at a certain time, this is the condition of the property in terms of the safety of the occupants that will be occupying this property, or the value of the property if any defects can impact this value.
Okay.
So that's in a very simple format. Of course, there's an extended form. I'm sure throughout the discussion we'll talk more about it. But if somebody want to get just an idea, what are we talking about here? Property inspection is exactly what I mentioned, just identifying what is the condition of a specific property at a certain given time.
Right there and then.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a service usually done during real estate transactions. So people are buying, renting real estate, or facility management if we're talking about commercial setting like malls or whatever. If a change of facility management, let's say, is changing hands, a new facility management company is moving in, so they need to know the condition at a certain point in time, and then so they can keep up with all the maintenance and so on and so forth.
I suppose people who are potentially buyers, or as you say, people that have accommodation where somebody's going to move in, they want to be preventive and they need to know what the condition is right there and then.
Absolutely, and it happens. There's a whole kind of inspections that people are asking for. It could be, we see it from all walks of different types of people. So let's say people are renting out a property. So even before they move in, although they did not buy it, but they need to know the condition. Typically, they are worried about any, let's say, electrical safety hazards or whatever.
Tenants themselves are doing
Tenants
the
themselves, they do it. And on the other hand, the landlord, they do it as well because they need to record and report the condition of the property before the tenants move out. It's called move-in inspection. So when they leave, they want to move out inspection so they can compare and see if the tenant had any damages or anything. Has to do with the security deposit that the tenant paid and whether they need to deduct anything or so on and so forth. The most common in this particular, and I'll tell you why I'm saying this particular part of the globe, is what we call pre-handover inspection. So pre-handover inspection, that's, I would say, 90 plus % of our business is coming from pre-handover. Pre-handover meaning that somebody bought an off-plan property and it's time to take handover. So the developer called them and say, your villa or your property, your apartment, whatever is ready. This is where they hire a professional inspection company to go and do the pre-handover inspection on their behalf as a third party. Of course, the developer have done already their best and they have their own inspection, internal inspection people to make sure that they deliver the unit, and they think that this is basically in the best condition. But of course, you can imagine developer would not have the training or the skill set or the equipment to do the proper inspection like a professional inspection company. That's where the buyer will hire a company, professional company, to do that pre-handover, give them a report, and this report goes to the developer again. Usually the developer, depend on who are, the developer or whatever, they give them a timeline where they will rectify all the issues that has been discovered in the report. And usually there's a lot of issues. That, of
I was going to say, how many pages do you have of defects in general? A lot.
A lot.
Because you're going up into the electrics,
the roof, and
the roofing.
absolutely.
It's not just that visual snagging. You're literally
it's
pulling,
funny,
pushing, checking.
The as per the standard term, from largest association of certified home inspectors, which we belong to, which is called INTERNACHI. International Association of Certified Home Inspectors in Colorado, the USA, or in general, they call property inspection, it's a visual inspection of the property. So people, when they read this, what do you mean visual? I can do visual. I mean, it's not, but actually the term visual is chosen selectively because it's a non-invasive test, meaning that we don't go inspect property and then we start to break walls and open the roof, and if we find something, we dig deeper and we take the grills of the air conditioner out. We don't do that.
No.
That's why it's called visual. However, the proper inspection company will have the proper tools that they don't even need to do that. We have, we use thermal imaging cameras, we use infrared cameras and so on to see things happening that we cannot see, that we cannot see with our naked eyes. So that's basically what's it.
So just to go through, clients of new properties, while they're inspecting their homes, they have a DLP. So do you find people spend a lot of money on properties?
Yeah.
And the inspection, it is a service, it is a cost. But the cost assessment and the analysis of spending a little bit more, putting a bit more into their investment, what's kind of the cost analysis? What can you save them?
It's actually something that we try to, and people, they get it right away because it's a very simple math. I actually, we were talking with somebody yesterday. The cost of a typical cost. Of course, it differs from one company to the other, or depending on the size of the property and so on. But on average, you're talking about 0.1% cost compared to the cost of the property. So if you're buying a property, very quick example, for 3 million, let's say, rough small townhouse somewhere, you probably pay around 3,000 dirham in order to get it inspected. Get it inspected, get this peace of mind that you're moving into a property. First of all, it's safe. Second, which people doesn't also get until we explain it to them. Because a lot of people would say, you know what, it's a brand new property, I have DLP, I have warranty, basically.
I don't need you, I'll get them to fix. Yeah.
That's great. So there's two answers to this. One is you need to make sure that it's safe for the occupants. That's what we focus on. Safe for the occupants, we find a lot of things related to electrical safety hazard. And I'm talking stuff that can be repaired for few dirhams here and there, but it's very important.
Yeah.
You're talking about, we check all for instance, one of the things that we do, we check all the electrical outlets in the property. Many times you find reverse wiring, for instance, where the electrician, because it's a workmanship, sometimes, and it's a mass production of villas or properties or a big, apartment building that have 300 units or whatever. So we see that a lot. So they miss connecting the ground, missing ground, or reverse wiring, or
it could cause fire hazards in the properties.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The short circuit, that's where we hear about, fire have, happened due to electrical whatever.
Yeah.
And people never think about, what do you mean electrical, what happened? That's exactly what. So we check that, but we also, the most important part which people miss is, yes, you have DLP, you have warranty, but do you want to move in to your property, move your furniture, move your family, and then you discover that the kitchen ceiling is leaking, so you get 4 or 5 guys knocking in your ceiling, breaking walls, screwing up your furniture, inconvenience.
The mess, the annoyance, yeah.
So that's a big portion of it. Yes, you have a warranty, but the convenience, it's worth.
It's a peace of mind.
It's a peace of mind.
Yeah, as you say, for 1%, when you've spent so much money on the value of a property.
It's a fraction of the cost. And as I said, people, when we start to explain it the way I'm saying it now, they realize that it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
But that's
why would I not?
And actually, it's funny. When we first came here, 3 years ago or whatever. We were originally like head offices in Canada, in Mississauga, in Ontario. And in Canada or North America in general, the landscape of inspection is completely different than here, because 95% of our business in North America is for resale home. Resale home meaning it's like buying a used car.
There's less new properties, primary
exactly.
sales.
It's a property
changing.
that has been occupied for 30 years. So it goes without saying, it's not mandatory service, but with any, as I mentioned, probably more than 95% of anybody giving an offer to purchase, putting an offer on a property, it has to go with conditional upon inspection, and usually unfinanced if they are looking for mortgages or whatever. So that's very common. It's people,
This is in Canada.
In Canada and the US, North America, and not sure about Europe.
It's a term that they would not buy.
It's a term, as I said. It's not
yeah.
an obligation. It's not mandatory by any government or anything. Banks sometimes they ask for it if the house is I think more than 20 years old or something like that. But it just it's in the brain of people. I have to do inspection. I have to know what I'm buying. As I said, I always give the metaphor of buying a used car. When you buy a used car, you send it to the mechanics to inspect the car, right? Which is very normal. But in this part of the world, North America, we don't get a lot of businesses, probably 2-3% of pre-handover directly from the developer. Because when you're getting it direct from the developer, usually the workmanship there is at a little bit higher standard.
It's not as
and therefore you will not find any issues. And yes, you also have DLPs. It will cover in case, but it will be very slim chances that you will find something. And I personally bought new properties before. I've tried.
Can't find any fault.
You won't find any fault.
Is there any other differences, as we're talking, between sort of the MENA region and North America, Canada, New Zealand that you worked in, other than this? Is there any other sort of differences in that whole process?
From as an overall, no, I think it's the awareness. That's why when we first came here, it took us a lot of time to do awareness building.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not, I wouldn't call it marketing effort, because you're not marketing your services versus other. No, you're actually trying to raise the awareness of people of why do you need property inspection. Because this mentality, that's why most of our customer base, especially in the beginning, was Western people coming from North America, from Europe, South Africa. They're used to that. So for them, it's a no-brainer. I'm buying a property, I have to inspect it. So,
absolutely.
So that's the main, I think, difference between the Western world, I would say, and the Middle East in general. I'm not talking UAE, but the whole Middle East, including North Africa, including Egypt, where we have a branch as well. Egypt is even way behind, because here we have a lot of expats, so they come with the knowledge. In Egypt, as you know, it's a very organic, like people, all Egyptians, so they are not exposed. So a lot of people, you tell them property inspection, what do you mean inspect? I'm a pretty experienced guy. I'll check it myself. They don't understand the amount of expertise. Like our engineers go through a very exhaustive to be licensed. If I'm talking about proper property inspection companies, it's a study it takes 1 year to get licensed as CPI, certified property inspector, from a reputable association like Internachi that I mentioned, for instance. So.
A question that I always think of, because we have our property management team in snagging, you only get 1 hour to do these snagging. How long do you need? Do you just take your time and go, we're not moving until we get this finished?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, when developer tell the purchaser that your appointment for pre-handover is on so and so date at from 9 to 10, for instance. What people also don't understand is that this, in case that you're not using a third-party inspector, because they assign one of their engineer or handover rep to basically, this is the orientation. It's actually orientation, it's not pre-handover inspection or not proper inspection, meaning that we will get you one of our rep to go through the property, and basically it's the cosmetic. So the purchaser will tell them, you know what, this is scratched, they note it down on a piece of paper or whatever. Once they tell them that we have a third-party inspector, most of the, and I'm saying most deliberately because there's one, without mentioning name, one large developer in the UAE that doesn't do this. It's different, but everybody else would just basically come with their rep, open the door, take the buyer into whatever, and then they leave us if we want to spend the overnight.
They'll leave you there as long as you
need, as long as you will send them the report, within a certain, usually they give you 3 days. We issue the report on the same day anyway, or maximum 24 hours. So it's more than enough, but usually they give you 3 days to give them back the report. Much easier for them, and it goes very smoothly. And as I said, it's much more extensive than having their handover rep. Usually they are not really trained to be property inspection. They don't have the proper tools. So it's a whole different type of check on that.
And do you use sort of recognized terminology that basically the contractors understand when you're explaining things? There's certain ways to identify that it's very understandable in pictures. You do these very thorough, detailed reports.
We a typical, and again, I hate to mention the size of a typical report because we are specifically we are completely against the quantity versus quality. So we really try to make it, because I've seen different people try to make it as comprehensive as possible. Guess what? It gets very confusing because our report was identified as one globally. We use, of course, a cloud-based software and so on. It was identified as one of the top 5 softwares globally to use for property inspection. The whole idea is that the inspection report has to be very clear and as short as possible to get the contractor and the owner to understand what is the issue, what's the root cause, and what is the recommendation going forward. And when we say recommendation, because we don't do invasive testing, as I mentioned earlier, so we're like, I'll give you a metaphor again to get people to understand what is property inspection, back to the, and then I'll go back to what I was talking about. But basically, property inspectors is like family physicians. Think about it this way. We're a general practitioner, engineers that know a little bit about everything, but we're not a specialized certified electrician. We're not a specialized certified plumbers, and so on and so forth. So guess what? When we go to family physician, internal medicine, you go and you know what? I have a stomach ache. They don't do invasive tests, meaning they will not do themselves an endoscopy or, got my point? What they do is they check. And if it's something that they can identify, they will. If not, and if it's something complicated and they couldn't see it, maybe they will order a scan, like X-ray. That's exactly what we do, because we have cameras that scans, and we can read the scans basically, and we see what goes behind the ceilings and so on and so forth. But at one point in time, he will say, you know what, I'll refer you to a gastroenterologist or a neurosurgeon or whatever, and this is where they will take a biopsy. These are the invasive tests. Exactly the same metaphor. I'm sorry to give it.
It actually explains it really well to then pass on.
So we're the generalists that are trained and know a little bit about everything in the home. You know what? The other alternative to bringing
5 companies.
Exactly. Get 5 companies. Absolutely.
Everybody's together.
They will even do a better job, but get a specialized certified electrical company, a plumber, a structural engineers, an HVAC company.
All in.
Yes, they will do even a better job. But that's exactly back to the metaphor. Do you, when you feel tired of any sort of headache or a stomach ache, or do you go and check
don't need to go at that extent first.
You start with a general practitioner, and that's what property inspectors are all about.
So we've talked a lot there about the developers and the DLP and all the pre-handover inspections. So do you find also, because you mentioned particularly in North America, do you find that you have a lot of people, potentially buyers in Dubai, resale properties that they are purchasing, and they want to do that condition report as part of their purchase contract? Have you got any sort of clients that do that?
Definitely, but as I said, if we're talking about resale, buying a used property, the percentage is way less. We get a lot, but it's way less than pre-handover, which, as I said, completely the opposite of the other side of the world, which is in North America. We get in numbers. We did the calculation, a year ago actually. Our business in Canada, for instance, it's 92% resale homes, and 8% is coming from pre-handover. Here, it's completely the other way around. I think it ended up to be 94% pre-handover and 5% resale home.
Okay.
Why? Because, as I mentioned, the pre-handover directly from the developer, usually it has a lot of issues. Some, the finishing is not as immaculate as in North America. So even cosmetic issues. So when we go to pre-handover, the difference between the inspection and pre-handover and resale is in pre-handover, basically in any inspection, we focus on what we call MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Mechanical being air condition, but not only the operation, we go deeper, not only the operation of the air condition, but we look at the ducting system that is embedded in these false ceilings. Do we have any air leaks? Because air leaks can cause condensation. Condensation causes to water droplets. Over time, it will create mold, for instance. So we look for air leaks in the duct. We look for condensation. We look for the efficiency of the air condition. Is it cooling properly? So we measure the temperature. We take scan using thermal imaging, and so on and so forth. So that's the mechanical, MEP. It's a very common term. Mechanical. Electrical is, as I mentioned earlier, we check all the electrical safety hazard that could possibly happen, make sure that the house is safe for the occupants. And plumbing, all the plumbing fixtures, in all the bathrooms and kitchen. So MEP is the number one. Structural, and structural, usually it's applicable to villas as opposed to apartment buildings, because any villa being built,
standalone,
it settles. It settles, and it's a normal civil engineering practice that the villa, the foundation, will settle at one point in time, usually in the first year when it was built. So settlement is allowed with a specific limit. Sometimes the differential settlement between the footing is large enough that it will cause structural cracks. So we check for the structure. Most of us are civil engineers, so that's our main expertise. So we check for the structure because that's something very serious. It can be repaired, depending on the amount of settlement that happened, but it's very costly. I mean, you have to expose the foundation, and they dig around the perimeter of the home, inject epoxies in the cracks. It's a big headache, so we check for that. So MEP and structure, that's the key. That is common to any property that we go to. Add to it, in the report, there will be also comment on any cosmetics in pre-handover. We don't do that for resale. Because pre-handover, we always, again, I like to give metaphors. You're going to buy a brand new car from a dealership. You cannot buy it as a brand new car and they tell you, you know what, there's a scratch under the mat. Don't worry about it. It's not visible. There will be a mat over. No, that's not allowed.
You want a perfect condition.
It has to be flawless, right? So that's what we look at. So we, from the tiniest fingerprint on an access panel on a kitchen to a small scratch on a tile or a repaired corner of a ceramic tile that has been shipped, We mention that in the report because it's not allowed.
You have an opportunity for them to put it right for you.
Exactly. So whether the developer will do it or not, and I'll talk about this, why sometimes they cannot get to all the defects that we identify, but we have to mention it. But in resale, we don't care about cosmetic because there's a normal wear and tear that is allowed.
It's not brand new property.
It's not brand new. So we focus on the other essential fours, which is the MEPs and the structure. That's what matter most in a typical home inspection. Basically.
So going back to GTA doing inspections, looking at experiences and situations you've encountered, has there ever been have you ever killed a deal?
Killed a deal. It's
killed a deal. Have you ever killed?
Typical
because
North American
side
term.
Of it, killed a deal. Any situations like that?
It happens, not something that happens every day. Typically you cannot kill a pre-handover from a developer because they bought it off plan, they have to go ahead. But I would say, just to put things in perspective, over the last probably 3 years, let's say if we inspected 350, rough figure, around between 300 and 500, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but let's say 300 resale properties. I would say less than 10 properties that we killed. We don't kill. We don't go. We don't give a recommendation. We give professional assessment of the condition and let them take. But I never go and tell the purchaser who's putting an offer on a property and brought us to inspect. No, say it's a bad idea because I don't know how much they got it for. Maybe it's a hell of a deal, But we give them an assessment and they decide. I think what I can remember from 10 to 15 properties that we killed it.
Small amount because your report showed things that the buyer then got a bit,
most of the time the report will show defects that it's repairable. So people use our report, first of all, to get the peace of mind. They know what they are moving into, how much it's gonna cost to keep the safety, of course, and how much it's gonna cost to repair these things, even if they're gonna repair it on their own cost. A lot of people use the report to negotiate the price with the seller because now I have a report from a registered RERA-certified company. Here are the defects. It's gonna cost around 100,000. I'm buying it for 3 million. Now I need a discount of 100,000. As simple as that. So people use the report differently.
It's a negotiating tool to say, I thought I was
peace
buying
of mind.
This.
I would say it's the number one peace of mind that you know what you're getting into. Like again, buying a used car, you need to know if it's gonna stop in the middle of the road or not. But a lot of people use it for negotiation. So back to killing the deal. We came with a report and I remember a few of them, it's still in my mind. Example that would kill a deal would be structural crack. As I said, it's repairable. It needs, first of all, when we find structural crack, we assess it and we give recommendation, what's the root cause and how it can be resolved. But to do it, they need a consulting engineering company to come, and give a proper assessment and a proper way of how to rectify.
But the structural developers have a longer warranty period for structural.
Exactly.
Correct, in Dubai it's
absolutely. But again,
beyond that,
it's absolutely, and it's not. I wouldn't feel safe to get a property that I have a 2 centimeter wide crack in a structural element, in a column or in a beam. Yes, it can be injected. As I said, it's a lot of headache, and if it's a pre-handover, it's on the developer. They will do it. But why would I take sometimes it's pre-handover, you don't have an option, as I said, but there are ways. But structural crack can kill a deal. Mold infestation and termite infestation can kill a deal, and that's based on our experience. Most of the 10-15 units that the deal has been killed, it's actually was because of mold infestation beyond the easy solution.
It's going to be a headache.
When it's infested, it's infested. Mold is a bacteria, basically. It goes and
maybe both parties need to be aware of that. When you look at killing a deal, that's not necessarily a negative. A seller and a buyer should be aware of those issues.
We just had one just a couple of weeks ago, and they left us a very nice Google review that because of your assessment, we decided not to move ahead with the property, and they put an offer on another property, and they brought us to inspect it. So that's the typical customer that understands the value. Yes, he paid I don't know, a few thousand here, and he will pay another few thousand, but you're buying a $5 million property. You need to make sure that you're getting into
definitely peace of mind and assurance for
absolutely.
everything what you're getting. So there, we were just talking a little bit about the killing deals. Have you ever got caught up in any court cases, contractors, fit outs?
Oh, actually,
it's something you can talk about with us.
Yeah. We're not going to mention any specifics, but it's more than we could think of. The typical scenario is that I recall one in my mind right now. It was, again, we're not going to mention even the place, but it was a very high-end villa. We're talking 7,000 square foot in one of the major developments here.
Double figures in the millions.
It was bought by a client, resale, and actually, he brought us to do the initial inspection as a resale property. We did it, and there was a few things here and there or whatever. After 1 year, the guy called us back, and he was in a panic mode and said, I want you to come to do a report, because he went to RERA, because we're RERA certified, and he want to go to court to take, I'll tell you the why. He wanted to take the contractor. He decided to change every inch of the villa. I didn't see that it's necessary. As I said, the villa was high end. It was beautiful already.
So this is renovations he started
renovation,
doing.
but every inch, like, everything you cannot imagine, at very expensive stuff. All the bathroom, marble floors and walls, all the sanitary items, the kitchen, whatever. He want to turn it upside down. And plus adding a fountain in the reception or whatever, major reconstruction. And he hired a contractor, and this is where after 1 year he got basically stuck between multiple people, because the main contractor hired a subcontractor, the subcontractor hired 5 different subs of plumber and electrician, whatever. And he said, I went, and every day I see major issues and degradation in the home, and I want you to come, because I went to RERA and I complained. They told me you have to go to court, but you need to get a RERA-certified company to do an inspection report so you can take it as an evidence. So anyway, I went, because I personally seen that villa when he moved in. You cannot imagine. I'll send you privately. I'll send you to get an idea about the report, but things I've never seen in my life. You're talking about water leak coming from electrical outlets. Actually, it's not a secret. We're not putting the name, but it's on our LinkedIn page, by the way. We're putting the video. Water coming from electrical outlet, short circuit in the electrical panel. Bathrooms, I've never seen water leak coming from the joint between the wall and the floor, and it's like a Niagara Falls. It's water leak. I don't know how, I didn't tell the guy, but I was talking to my team. I think if it was me, if I want to rectify these, sorry to mention, but you need to burn it down and rebuild it.
It's just too much.
There is not a thing, and it's all serious stuff. Embedded pipes on the wall that is leaking, electrical safety issues. We were actually worried while we were doing the inspection, because there was a lot of, as I said, it cannot get any worse than this, where you have electrical outlets and water leaking into it. So it was a disaster. So that's one of the extreme cases where the guy went to court. I don't know what he did. We don't get involved on the case. We just provide our report. But I got into probably 3 more, I'm talking about in a span of 3 years or whatever. So it's not something that happened every day, but it does happen, and usually from fit-out jobs. A lot of issues happen from fit-out, and they call us to claim something, but it's not as extreme. The finishing, they didn't like the finishing, they didn't like this, they didn't like that. But this one was, it never goes from my mind what I've seen in this villa.
Well, hopefully your report helped the situation and got it all
I have no idea what he did, but sometimes, you don't want to go to court, and it takes ages or whatever. At the end of the day, the villa as I said, it needs to be
it sounds like
brought
a necessity.
to the ground and then rebuilt if you really need to.
Necessity in that case.
Yeah.
And can you just talk us through some type of the players in the UAE market? Who's your competition?
So basically, UAE, as I mentioned, the service is not a very common, like in North America or whatever. So you have a handful, I would say, a two handful of players. The different type, there are companies like us which we are doing nothing but property. This is what we're specialized on. We're a property inspection company. We do nothing else. We're not contractors because of conflict of interest. We're not real estate company. We just take this niche and we're specialized, we're certified, and so on. And you have other companies that are real estate companies that, because they are trying to expand into anything related to real estate, so they sell, they rent, they buy, they whatever, and you know what, we'll do inspection as well as an add-on service. So you have these companies as well. And then you have contractors, which is a complete red flag for us, and we're not allowed to even think about it. As I said, we're a member of an association, so we're not allowed to get into contracting work. But here there's few contractors that get into inspection, where they go and inspect and then they offer you to repair, which is, you can imagine the conflict of interest. I cannot inspect with my right hand and offer to repair it with my left hand.
They do the work and they inspect it and go, it's great.
No, the other way around is worse. They inspect and then they offer to do the work. So you can imagine the amount of issues that you're going to find in your place. And the last one, so I mentioned like specialized companies, I mentioned real estate contractors, and the last one will be valuation companies, which is a little bit a confusing area because they are usually certified from a reputable organization as well, but it's not a home inspection organization or association. It's a valuation organization, but people usually, the general public doesn't know the difference. Valuation is different than property inspection. Valuation is the people that the bank send to get you approval for mortgage. They are more into real estate. They look at the location, the size, the overall condition. They come, they walk through the property. We've been in contact with many valuation while we're doing the inspection. So they come, they walk around. They are not engineers, but they are more focusing on the value of the property in terms of, you know, the other properties, how much they were sold in the same neighborhood, and so on and so forth. And they go to the bank and tell them, yes, this property worth 3. And the guy or the seller want to sell it for 3.2, so the valuation comes at 3. So the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
So these are the pretty much 4 type valuation company that get into this, which I have reservation on it. Contractor, it's a red flag completely. Real estate company, it's okay if they have the proper team and proper engineers and not sending just some skilled workers, and specialist companies basically.
Yeah. So you sound like with GTA inspectors, you've got quite a niche market, very, very specialized, covers a bit of it all. So last question for you, have you got any more top tips? You've given people a lot of helpful advice today. Have you got any more top tips for buyers out there? Apart from give you a call.
Yeah, that's the most important.
Give me a call.
No, but genuinely, and I might sound biased, I'm not going to talk about me in general. If you're buying a property, renting, it's not that big of a concern for me because it's not your property. But if you're buying a property, either off plan or resale, for sure, do yourself a favor and do a proper property inspection, just for the peace of mind and all the things that I mentioned earlier. Don't think about, if it's a pre-handover and I'm getting it directly from the developer and I have a DLP for 12 months. Think about it. Do you want to, and it happens all the time. Probably you've experienced some.
Absolutely.
You will move with your people, with your family and your furniture, and then at one point in time you will get 5 guys for 2 days breaking your ceiling because there's a water leak. It doesn't cost a lot, and it's not going to cost you a lot. Yes, you have a warranty. That's what you want to get yourself into. So that's what the main advice that I want to give people to go through the math, and you will find that it's a fraction of the cost. Do the investment. I wouldn't even call it investment because it's fraction of the investment that you're doing, protect your property and protect your family or whomever gonna move into that property by doing a proper, and I keep saying proper property inspection before you move in.
Yeah, I think as you say, that 1%, that's no investment really to have that peace of mind and
Sorry,
to resolve.
it's not one, it's 0.1%.
0.1%.
Yeah, do the math.
1%.
3,000.
You can't get me on a maths question this early in the morning.
0.1. It's a
So it's
3,000.
even, so it's a fraction.
An average of 3,000 dirham on a 3 million dirham property. So if you do the math, I hope I'm not mistaken. I'm an engineer, so I'll look very bad if I did.
I'll let you do the math.
But I'll
got
check it.
Calculator.
But it's
0.1 to 1% would be absolutely fine for me. I think it would be a well worth investment. But thank you so much, Ehab. That's
You're
really,
welcome,
really
Louise.
interesting.
Thank you so
and
much.
You've covered
It
a
was
lot
great
of
discussion.
points. I think you've given people a lot of food for thought just to actually really protect the properties themselves and their families. So
perfect. Thank you so much. I
Yes.
enjoyed the discussion.
Hope
and
you'll come back again and see us.
Absolutely. I'm available anytime. Let me know.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for
Great
having
having
me.
you today.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today on Property Talk from Louise's Lounge. Hope you've enjoyed the chat today. And as always, if you've got any suggestions, feedbacks, comments or questions, please do get in touch and we hope you tune in again next time. Thank you.